All right, Invincible fans, buckle up because we are going deep on season 3. And whoa, based on your reviews and recaps, this season is going to be a wild one.
Yeah, it definitely hits the ground running.
Global level threats, family drama that'll have you biting your nails, maybe even a little romance brewing amidst the chaos.
And the writers really don't pull any punches with Mark this time around. You know, Mark Grayson, our invincible hero,
Right.
he's working with the GDA, training harder, becoming insanely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this underlying distrust towards Cecil Steadman, the director of the GDA.
Oh, yeah, that tension is thick. You can practically cut it with a sword. And it's clear right from that opening scene. The whole Doc Seismic incident. Remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a prime example of what makes Invincible so good. So Doc Seismic, he's this villain who can control earth and rock. It's basically a walking earthquake.
Yeah, classic supervillain move trying to steal the Declaration of Independence.
Right. And he even manages to capture a bunch of heroes, like Rex Splode, who can, well, explode things, and Multipol, who can create duplicates of himself.
Oh, yeah, Multipol. That guy's always fun to watch.
Exactly. And Doc Seismic, he's saying they're all tools of a corrupt government. So Mark and Eve, they try to stop him, but then Cecil steps in and basically neutralizes everyone with the device that takes away their powers.
Okay, I see where this is going. So on the surface, it seems like Cecil's just stopping the bad guy, right?
Right. Exactly.
But it felt kind of icky the way he handled it, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think that's the brilliance of the writing. They're showing us that Cecil operates in this moral gray area. You know, he's doing what he thinks is necessary,
Yeah.
but it means crossing some serious ethical lines.
So does that make him the bad guy then?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And that's what Mark's struggling with. He thought he knew Cecil, he saw him as a mentor, but now he's questioning everything.
Makes you think, about those in power and whether we should just blindly trust them.
It does, and that's what Invincible does so well. It makes us confront these uncomfortable truths about power, corruption, the whole shebang.
Okay, but it's not all gloom and doom. There were some lighter moments, too, like the whole situation with Mark's little brother, Oliver. That was interesting.
Oh yeah, Oliver's storyline adds a whole new layer of complexity. So
Yeah.
just a quick refresher, for those who need it, Mark's dad, Nolan, he was Omni-Man.
Basically Superman, but evil.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
now Oliver's developing superpowers,
Yeah.
and everyone's freaking out, understandably.
Can you imagine? You find out your kid has superpowers after your husband turned out to be an evil alien overlord? I'd be hitting the panic button.
Right, so Mark's mom, Gebby, she wants Oliver to have a normal life, which again, completely understandable.
Yeah, but Cecil, on the other hand, wants to recruit Oliver to the GDA. Like, immediately.
Of course he does. Classic Cecil.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Debbie is super protective of her kids, especially after everything with Nolan. But Cecil sees Oliver's potential and thinks he needs training.
Exactly. And Mark's stuck in the middle.
Talk about a rock and a hard place. He gets his mom's fears. But he also knows what can happen if Oliver's powers aren't controlled. So what does he do?
He decides to train Oliver himself.
Oh, wow. So now he's a superhero and a mentor to his little brother.
Yep. And I think that's going to be a major part of his arc this season. Dealing with his own issues while also trying to guide Oliver.
That's a lot of pressure.
Oh, definitely. Especially considering Oliver idolizes Mark. He doesn't see the struggles, the doubts.
Yeah, he just sees Invincible, the hero.
Exactly. It's a fascinating dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Speaking of interesting dynamics, your review also mentioned some sparks flying between Mark and Eve.
Ah, yes. Young love blooming amidst the apocalypse. Always a good time.
Did they finally make a move?
Well, Mark tries to ask Eve out, but it goes about as smoothly as you'd expect from a teenage superhero with the weight of the world on his shoulders.
It's kind of cute, though. You know, they're these superpowered beings saving the world, but they're still teenagers dealing with all the awkwardness of first love.
Exactly. It adds a touch of realism, I think. It makes them relatable.
So Mark's juggling family drama, potential romance, and, oh yeah, doubts about the GDA.
Yep. Seems like a pretty normal Tuesday for Invincible.
And just when you think things couldn't get more complicated, the review drops a bombshell.
Oh, you mean the return of a certain supervillain?
The one and only Omni-Man Mark's dad.
Back with a vengeance, it seems. And he's not alone.
Who's he with?
Alan, the alien, remember him?
Oh yeah, the intergalactic traveler, who always seems to pop up at the worst possible moment.
That's our Alan. And they're cooking up something on some far-off alien planet.
Okay, that's not ominous at all.
Right. Nolan was the main baddie for a while, so his return is definitely cause for concern.
And even Alan seemed kind of freaked out by whatever Nolan's planning in the case. That's saying something.
It definitely raises a lot of questions. What's Nolan's end game? What role does Alan play? And how will Mark react when he finds out?
Oh man, I can't wait to see that confrontation go down.
Me neither. It's going to be epic. All right, so before we jump into the next part of our deep dive, let's do a quick recap of what we've covered. We've got Mark grappling with his trust in Cecil and the GDA, Oliver developing powers, and the family drama that comes with it. The possibility of romance between Mark and Eve, and of course, the ominous return of Omni-Man.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to unpack in this season, so stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into Invincible Season 3.
You know what's really hitting me as we go through this season?
What's that?
It's like Invincible isn't just a typical superhero show anymore.
How so?
It's like a reflection of all our anxieties, like our struggles with trusting authority and figuring out family in a world that feels kind of crazy.
I totally see that. It's like they're taking these crazy elements like superpowers and aliens
Right.
and using them to talk about real stuff that we all deal with.
Exactly. And it makes you think, like, in this episode, Mark's distrust of Cecil. It's like it's mirroring this whole thing happening in society.
Yeah, people losing faith in governments, institutions, even the media. It's everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Invincible captures that feeling so well.
It's like the show's asking us straight up, who do you trust and why?
And the thing is, there are no easy answers. It's not black and white.
Yeah. Like Cecil, I mean, he thinks he's doing the right thing, but his methods are messed up.
Right. It's that classic ends justify the means kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it leaves you wondering, can you really trust someone who's willing to cross those lines?
Even if they think it's for the greater good.
Exactly. It's a tough question.
And it's not just about Cecil, right? This episode also dives into other relationships like Rex Splode and Multi-Paul. And then there's the whole thing with Duplicate.
Oh, man. Talk about a twist. I did not see that coming.
So she's not dead.
Nope. Alive and kicking. And apparently engaged to the Immortal.
The Immortal, isn't he like unkillable?
That's the one. So now we've got this whole love triangle thing going on.
More like a love rectangle.
Right. It's a mess. But it's so good.
It makes you wonder what Rex is going to do now. Does he reach out to Duplicate? Does he tell Multi-Paul?
And how will the Immortal react when he finds out about Rex and Duplicate's history? It's juicy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then there's the family drama with Mark, Oliver, and Debbie.
Oh, man. Debbie's reaction to Oliver getting powers.
I mean, I get it. Imagine going through what she did with Nolan, and then your other son starts showing superpowers.
Total nightmare fuel.
You can just feel her fear. She wants to protect Oliver, give him a normal life, but she knows deep down it might not be possible.
And that's what makes her character so relatable. She's not just some hysterical mom. She's a strong woman trying to do what's best for her family.
And she's not afraid to stand up to Cecil, even though he's like the most powerful guy in the world.
Right. She's not backing down. She's fighting for her family.
And Mark's caught in the middle. He sees both sides. He understands his mom's fear, but he also knows Oliver needs guidance.
It's that whole responsibility thing again. He's responsible for his family, for the world. And those responsibilities are clashing.
It's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone a teenager.
And it makes you think about the pressures young people face today, even without superpowers. Trying to figure out who they are, what they want to do.
It's tough. And Mark's story kind of reflects that in a way.
It does. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. The show still has those amazing action sequences and that dark humor.
Oh, yeah. That fight scene with Doc Seismic and those giant rock monsters.
So good. The animation is top-notch.
Yeah.
And the way they blend the action with the humor, it's perfect.
That part where the rock monster tripped over the car.
I laughed out loud.
It's ridiculous, but it worked.
And the voice acting? Come on.
Yeah.
It's a star-studded cast.
I know Sterling K. Brown, J.K. Simmons, Sandra. Oh, it's insane.
And they all deliver. They're so invested in the story.
It really shows. Okay, but we got to talk about that ending.
The cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah. Nolan and Alan, what are they up to?
It's like a ticking time bomb. We know it's going to be bad, but we don't know how bad.
And even Alan seemed worried, like genuinely concerned about Nolan's plan.
If Alan's worried, we should all be worried.
It just shows how dangerous Nolan really is.
Okay, so what do you think? What's Nolan's endgame?
I have no idea, but I'm dying to find out.
Me too. And how's Mark going to react when he finds out? It's going to be explosive, for sure. This season is shaping up to be a roller coaster.
Okay, before we get too carried away, let's touch on something your review mentioned about the source material.
Oh, yeah. The comic book series by Robert Kirkman.
The Walking Dead guy?
That's him. And you can tell the showrunners really respect the source material. They've adapted it faithfully, but also made some changes that work really well.
It's a great example of how to adapt something without losing its essence.
Exactly. And for anyone who hasn't read the comics, I highly recommend them. It adds a whole other layer to the story.
Okay, so we've talked about the themes, the characters, the relationships, the action, the humor, and of course that cliffhanger ending.
We've barely scratched the surface.
I know. And there's still so much more to discuss, especially with Nolan's return.
So buckle up, Invincible fans.
Yeah.
Because in part 3, we're diving even deeper.
We'll be tackling all those lingering questions, exploring the fallout from Nolan's return, and maybe even throwing out some wild theories.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So stick around. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our Invincible deep dive. And wow, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, this first episode, it's like setting up these parallel journeys. You know,
Like what?
we've got Mark. He's already this established hero, but he's wrestling with his trust in Cecil and the whole GDA thing.
Right.
And then you've got Oliver. He's just starting to understand his powers, facing a whole different set of challenges.
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
Totally. Both dealing with these incredible abilities, but from completely different perspectives.
And Oliver's situation, I mean, it really makes you think about the whole ethics of kids with superpowers.
Right, like, should they be trained for combat? Should they be shielded from all the danger? It's a tough one.
You can really see Debbie struggling with that. Like, on the one hand, she just wants to protect her son, give him a normal life.
Of course.
But on the other hand, she knows that might not be an option anymore.
It's like parenting anxieties on steroids. How do you prepare your kid for a destiny they didn't choose?
Yeah.
For responsibilities that could literally save or destroy the world?
And it's not just the physical danger either. It's the emotional and psychological toll.
Right. Like, how do you guide them so they don't get overwhelmed or worse? Corrupted by all that power.
Man, it's heavy stuff.
It is. But I think Debbie's going to play a big role here. She's not just a worried mom. She's strong. She's resilient. She's ready to fight for her family.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely not backing down.
And I think she's going to be crucial in shaping Oliver's path.
Okay, but we can't forget about the elephant in the room. Nolan's back, and he's up to something.
That's the big one, isn't it? The shadow looming over everything.
The review mentioned he's plotting with Alan the alien. What could they possibly be planning?
That final scene with them on that alien planet, it's creepy. Even Alan seemed freaked out, and that's saying something.
Yeah, he's usually so laid back.
Right, exactly. So if he's worried, we should all be worried.
It just shows how dangerous Nolan really is, and it makes you wonder how Mark's going to react when he finds out.
Oh, man. That confrontation is going to be epic.
Can't even imagine.
It's going to be heartbreaking, too.
Yeah.
You know, father versus son, all that history.
But that's what makes Invincible so good. It's not just mindless action. It's about these deep personal struggles, the weight of family legacies, the choices we make when everything's on the line.
And through it all, Mark's trying to figure out who he is, you know? He's not that naive rookie anymore.
He's seen some stuff. He's lost people. He's realized that the world isn't black and white.
Right, he's grown up a lot.
So the big question is, who's he going to become? Will he follow Cecil's lead? Embrace that whole ends justify the means thing?
Or will he reject that? Find his own way, a way that aligns with his values.
It's a question we'll be exploring all season, and that's what I love about Invincible. It makes you think, it challenges you, it doesn't shy away from the tough questions.
Exactly. It's not just about good versus evil. It's about the gray areas, the internal struggles, the choices that define who we are.
Well said. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the themes, the characters, the relationships, the action, the humor, the cliffhangers.
And I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
I know, there's so much more to come, so stay tuned for our next deep dive. We'll be tackling episode 2.
And who knows what twists and turns await us.
Until then, keep those reviews and recaps coming. And remember, Invincible fans, think before you trust. Family is complicated, and even superheroes have bad days.